The issue of sexual harassment is an issue that is of growing concerns in businesses today, primarily because number one, employees are more aware of their rights. As a manager, you need to be aware that there are many more avenues for complaints today, and also it perhaps is a reflection of the times, right? But whatever the reasons are, the key things a manager needs to know about sexual harassment is that we have a code of conduct for the prevention and eradication of sexual harassment at the workplace, and this code mandates that a company needs to investigate any sexual harassment allegation to its conclusion. Right? This means that it cannot be buried under the rug anymore, and it's an issue that needs to be given serious thought and investigation, right? So basically what it requires the company to do is due process needs to be honored. So if a staff comes up to you and lodges a complaint about his or her colleague or supervisor, your job needs to be, you cannot bury this under the table. You need to take action. And since sexual harassment is regarded as a major misconduct, you need to gather the details, the specifics, and communicate this with HR. Now, another aspect for sexual harassment that I believe needs to be clearly explained to all your employees is that they need to understand that sexual harassment, it involves two parts. The first is sexual coercion, and this involves the more physical or the more direct type of sexual harassment where someone asks someone out, or someone talks, makes repeated advances to someone, or shows clear pornography of some sort directly at someone. Those are the coercive types of sexual harassment. What is of growing importance today is that we need to understand that there's a second element of sexual harassment called sexual annoyance, which is also of equal importance today. Now, sexual harassment can come in various forms. It could be physical, it could be mental, it could be psychological, it could be visual, right? It could be an emotional sort. But the message here is sexual annoyance can take these shapes, and they typically involve examples where someone makes a comment that is seen offensive. Perhaps someone commenting about someone's dressing in the presence of other female staff, right? Or it could be someone commenting about the way someone looks, or the way someone, or makes a derogatory comment on someone based on their gender, on their sex. These are all things that perhaps may be spoken loosely in an informal atmosphere at work over lunch or something, but someone else may find this offensive. Now, if that were to happen, a company is still obliged to investigate it. If someone finds it offensive and complains, as managers, we cannot push this aside, and we need to be seen to be taking action, right? That involves educating our staff on sexual harassment, as well as telling them what their rights are, right? The other aspect today involving the difficulties of sexual harassment involve the issue of making sure an employee understands that when lodging a complaint, he or she should also come in with specifics, details of the allegations, dates, times, places, what was said, what was spoken, what was done. All those things are important details that need to be shared, right? And also, if someone finds something sexually offensive, they are also required to show some sort of a rejection, some sort of a displeasure. For instance, if someone found someone asking them out via WhatsApp late at night, out at night, or asking them about what they were dressed in, and that person did not indicate that he or she found that distasteful or disrespectful, later it becomes more difficult for us to establish for HR when investigating issues of sexual harassment. Henceforth, sexual harassment needs to be managed very conservatively, very carefully, but importantly, managers need to get these details and ascertain the facts and details of each particular case. Now, closely related to the area of sexual harassment and the issue of code of conduct violations today. Sexual harassment could be one of them, but other examples of code of conduct violations involve things like someone, for instance, breaching their confidentiality obligations to the company, sharing sensitive corporate information to third parties, unauthorized parties. Perhaps someone is in business that is in competition with the company, or perhaps whose spouse is vying for a project with your company, but you have not disclosed that to the management. That could be examples of conflict of interest, breach of confidentiality, or integrity issues, fraud, CBT. All those are code of conduct related issues. The message here being those need to be investigated seriously as major misconducts. HR needs to be involved in communicating this, and once that has been communicated, HR will then have to observe the due process, which typically involves investigations, sending a show cause letter to the employee, giving the employee a chance to respond, and once the employer responds, perhaps going all the way through a domestic inquiry process. Again, your role as the manager here is to, number one, educate your staff on the company's policies regarding sexual harassment, on the code of conduct and code of ethics that the company has, to make sure that these things do not occur, or at least are significantly mitigated if they do in fact happen.